Okay, but having said what you've just mentioned, so will you say, as an African, will you say Britain and other countries having removed Gaddafi is one of the main reasons that has prompted many African migrants to be using that country to come to Europe? Because prior to that, there were migrants coming to Europe, but it was not in that fast-paced movement. So will you say people knowing that the country is volatile, there is no security in the country, is one of the reasons why people are just going into the country, trying by all means to get to Europe, risking their lives?
I think that is the case. I mean, every time there is a piece of land on earth that is not properly governed, you're going to have human beings try every sort of thing, and trying opportunities, as Jim said, to sort of trying to do things that they think will better their lives. And I think that the governments, the Western governments, the British government, the American governments have a lot of resources at their disposal, a lot of intelligence, and have a lot of professionals who know very well and did not need telling from anybody, and don't need telling from us now, that attacking Libya in the way they did, just from the air, clearly showing that they didn't want to be involved intimately in the problem at that moment, and therefore thereafter, they did that with the full knowledge that the outcome would be unclear, but also with the full knowledge that the outcome may be difficult to manage, which is why they didn't want to be involved on the ground. They didn't want to put any boots on the ground. Only special forces, I think, went in. So there was that knowledge. And what troubles me is, and what I think what should trouble a lot of people is, despite that knowledge, and I have no doubt that the British government knew that, I have no doubt that the American governments knew that, I'm quite sure that they were fully aware that the situation in the post-Gaddafi period will be volatile. There will be many centers of power rather than one center of power in Libya, and that as a result of that, a lot of chaos would happen. And the evidence to that is simply the fact that they were willing to deal with Gaddafi mainly from the air, not from the ground, because they couldn't guarantee the safety in there. And with the Benghazi attack, with the attack on the U.S. consul in Benghazi, you're quite clear that the state had not managed to recover, and that therefore at that moment Western governments could have taken action to then say, look, we need to be more involved here, create a sense of stability. And I think that's what the United Nations should be doing.
I'm not interrupting you there, but Africa as a whole then, what role should Africa play in this, or what role should Africa have played? Because we've got our own governments in Africa as well. Do you think they as well have got a part that they should have played, or a part that they should play now in order to reduce or to stop what's happening right now?
Well, I hear that argument every day where people say, you know, Africa should have done this. And with respect to Libya itself, you get people who say, oh, well, look, the South African government, I think the other one was Moroccan government, voted with the rest of the world for to get the United Nations Security Council to approve the attack on Libya, and that therefore they have a responsibility to do this. But international relations isn't like that. Geopolitics isn't as easy as that. Some of these African countries do not have as much resources as they need, and voting in the United Nations is bought and sold. At the United Nations Security Council, you will notice that this is what Donald Trump tried to do recently with the vote on Jerusalem, where he said those countries that have been getting any aid from America and will not vote with him, they will face economic sanctions. They will face withdrawal of such support. So it is very difficult to say that. I think what is important is that yes, Africa must begin to progress and go forward, use the best brains they've got, but we cannot do that without accepting first and foremost that the world has a history. There's a reason why Africa is poor and there's no capacity, and that is structural. And therefore, until you have sort of dealt with these structural differences, you're not going to be able to have Africa do even what it wants to do. You know, but you know, some people would say you're failing, you're refusing to take responsibility, and I don't think so. I think that I'm being realistic in terms of the structural difficulties in making decisions and taking action.
I think it's really difficult. I think that it's very interesting comparing the response of the US and UK governments in terms of Libya, and you're right, I think that British military at the time was saying unless we actually had if we're going to intervene unless we have boots on the ground. And this is, I'm not advocating, you know, boots on the ground in every situation, but I think what we are clear about is that just kind of attacking, trying to change a head of state from the air just doesn't work. It creates a gas. But you compare that to, say, what's the French government have been doing in Mali, for instance, where, you know, where they actually have kind of had boots on the ground, not necessarily in great numbers, but recognising that was a responsibility. Now, I think maybe the jury's still out about the appropriateness, but it's undoubtedly brought some greater stability to Mali. And the reasons for the French government going in there was not about because they were threatened, the French state was being threatened by that, but they felt that they had a moral responsibility as the ex-colonial power to actually do that. And I think that's, I think historically we're going to look, you know, the comparison of what's happened in Mali and what's happened in Libya is going to be quite interesting, and the way the different states responded and the basis for that response.